The sun was setting over the Miami skyline, casting a golden glow over the glass buildings. James Carter, a self-made millionaire in his early 40s, leaned against his sleek black sports car, staring out at the ocean. He had built his empire from the ground up, turning a struggling tech startup into a billion-dollar company. Wealth had brought him power, luxury, and options, but also a fair share of people who wanted a piece of it. One of those people was Vanessa. She was breathtaking, long legs, silky hair, and a smile that could light up a room. But James knew better than to be blinded by beauty alone. He had seen too many men in his circle fall for the wrong women who were only there for the money, and now he was starting to think he had made the same mistake. It had all started fast. James met Vanessa at an upscale lounge downtown, and within days, they were inseparable. She knew exactly what to say, how to laugh at his jokes, how to touch his arm just the right way. It was like she had studied him, and maybe she had. At first, James brushed off the small red flags, her expensive tastes, the way she never seemed too interested in his work, just the perks that came with it. But then, the truth hit him hard. One evening, he overheard a phone call that changed everything. Vanessa was in the other room, laughing, her voice dripping with excitement. "Girl, I got him wrapped around my finger," she said. "This man is loaded. Private jets, penthouses, you name it. I just have to play the part a little longer, and I'll be set for life." James felt his stomach drop. His worst fear had been confirmed. She didn't love him. She loved what he could give her. He took a deep breath, walked into the room, and locked eyes with her. "Pack your things," he said coldly. "We're done." Vanessa's smile froze. "Wait, what?" "I heard everything." She tried to backtrack, to deny, to cry. But James had seen enough in his life to know when someone was faking it. Within an hour, she was gone, her designer suitcases rolling behind her as she left his penthouse for good. He felt relief. He had dodged a bullet, or so he thought. A week later, James was enjoying his morning coffee on his balcony when his phone buzzed with a message that made his blood run cold. It was Vanessa. "We need to talk. It's important." He almost ignored it, but something told him to check. Before he could respond, another message came through. This time, a photo. Two little boys, no older than 3 or 4, sat on a couch, staring straight into the camera. The caption beneath it made James's head spin. "These are your sons." James blinked, his mind racing. Sons? What was she talking about? They had only been together for a few months, and these boys, they were black. He scrolled back up, reading the message again, half expecting it to change. Vanessa was lying. She had to be. This was another trick, another desperate attempt to hold on to his money. But why? Why would she make a claim this bold? Unless she had something up her sleeve. James exhaled slowly. He had worked too hard to get where he was. He wasn't about to let someone manipulate him. But something about those kids' eyes, something about the way they looked straight at him through the screen, made his heart skip a beat. Was there a chance, any chance at all, that she was telling the truth? James sat frozen, staring at the message. His coffee had gone cold, but he didn't care. His mind was racing. This had to be a lie. Vanessa was desperate, grasping at straws to keep him in her life. But then, why would she send a picture of these kids? And why now? He tossed his phone on the table and rubbed his temples. No way. He and Vanessa had only been together for a few months. There was no possible way those boys were his. But something about their eyes unsettled him. Something familiar. James took a deep breath and dialed Vanessa's number. She picked up immediately, as if she had been waiting for his call. "I knew you'd reach out," she said, her voice smug. "Cut the games, Vanessa," James snapped. "What is this about?" She sighed dramatically. "You really think I'd make something like this up?" "Yes," James said without hesitation. "Well, you're wrong." Her tone turned serious. "We need to talk, in person." James hesitated. Every instinct told him to walk away, block her and move on. But something, deep inside, curiosity maybe, kept him from hanging up. "Fine," he said. "Meet me at the cafe on 5th. 30 minutes. When James arrived, Vanessa was already there, sipping an iced latte, like she didn't just turn his world upside down. She looked different, less polished, more real. No designer dress, no perfect makeup. For the first time, she looked tired. He sat down across from her. "Talk." She set her drink down and slid her phone across the table. "Look at them, James. Really look." James hesitated, then glanced at the photo again. The boys were cute. Big brown eyes, curly hair, matching dimples. They looked happy, but they didn't look like him. "I don't know what you're trying to pull, but I'm not falling for it," he said, shoving the phone back. Vanessa leaned in. "They're yours, James. You just don't remember." His stomach twisted. "What the hell does that mean?" She took a deep breath. "Because I didn't meet you at that lounge for the first time. I met you years ago. You just don't remember me." James frowned. He had met a lot of women in his life, but he would have remembered Vanessa, wouldn't he? "It was 4 years ago," she continued. "We had a thing. It wasn't serious, at least not to you. But then I found out I was pregnant." James's heart pounded in his chest. 4 years ago. That was back when he had been partying hard, traveling non-stop, barely thinking about the consequences of his actions. Could it be possible? "You never called me back," Vanessa said, her voice softer now. "I tried, but you were always too busy. Eventually I gave up. I had the twins on my own." James shook his head. "And now, out of nowhere, you're telling me this. Why not sooner?" Vanessa's jaw tightened. "Because I didn't need you. I was doing fine. But recently, things got hard. I lost my job. Rent is piling up. And I figured, if their father is a millionaire, maybe, just maybe, he should know they exist." James felt a mix of emotions. Anger, confusion, guilt. Was she lying? Or had he really abandoned 2 children without even knowing? "I need proof," he said finally. Vanessa nodded. "I figured you'd say that. DNA test. Your choice of clinic." That caught him off guard. If she was lying, why would she be so confident? James exhaled sharply. "Fine, we do this test. If they're not mine, you disappear." Vanessa met his gaze. And if they are, James didn't answer. Because deep down, he knew if those kids were his life was about to change forever. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and fresh. Paper. The kind of place where the truth couldn't hide. James sat in the waiting room, arms crossed, tapping his foot against the floor. Vanessa sat across from him, silent, staring at her hands. Neither of them had spoken much since they arrived. The only sound was the occasional rustling of papers, as the receptionist checked people in. It had been a long week since their meeting at the cafe. James had spent every night tossing and turning, questioning everything. He had dug through his old emails, text messages, anything that might connect him to Vanessa from 4 years ago. But there was nothing. Either she was lying, or he had truly forgotten a part of his own past. A nurse finally called his name, snapping him out of his thoughts. The test itself was simple. A quick swab, barely a minute of discomfort. But the weight of what it could mean felt suffocating. As they left the clinic, Vanessa turned to him. "I know you don't want this to be true," she said quietly. "But if it is, they deserve a father." James didn't respond. He wasn't ready to think about that yet. Days passed slowly. James buried himself in work, trying to push the test results out of his mind. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw those boys' faces. The way their eyes seemed to hold something familiar, something he couldn't ignore. Then the call came. The clinic's receptionist spoke in a calm, professional voice. "Mr. Carter, your results are in. Would you like us to email them, or would you prefer to pick them up in person?" His throat felt dry. "I'll come in." An hour later, he sat in the doctor's office, the envelope heavy in his hands. Vanessa sat beside him, watching him closely. He hesitated, then ripped it open. His heart pounded as his eyes scanned the page. And then, 99.9% probability of paternity. His breath caught. It was real. They were his. Vanessa let out a shaky sigh. "I told you." James felt like the ground had been pulled from beneath him. He had built his entire life on control, controlling his business, his wealth, his future. And now, in one moment, everything had changed. For the first time in his life, he was a father. At first, he didn't know what to do. He wasn't the type to play catch in the park or read bedtime stories. He had spent years focused on his empire, not thinking about kids, let alone 2 4-year-old boys who had been growing up without him. But then he met them. When Vanessa brought the twins to a small park near her apartment, James felt like an outsider, looking into someone else's life. The boys, Jaden and Noah, were running around, laughing, completely unaware of the weight of what was happening. "Boys," Vanessa called, "come say hi." They stopped playing and looked up at James with wide eyes. "Who's that?" Jaden asked. Vanessa hesitated. "This is James." Noah tilted his head. "Like our dad." James's chest tightened. He crouched down, meeting them at eye level. "Yeah," he said softly. "Like your dad." The boys exchanged a glance. Then, without warning, Noah reached out and touched James's watch. "Cool," he said with a grin. "Can I have one?" James let out a breath. He didn't realize he had been holding and laughed for the first time. In days, it wasn't easy. The transition from millionaire bachelor to father of 2 came with its own set of struggles. He had to learn patience, how to balance work and fatherhood, how to be present in a way he never had to before. Vanessa, despite their rocky past, helped him navigate it. And slowly, the walls between them softened, not in a romantic way, but in a way that came from shared responsibility. Months passed, and James found himself looking forward to weekends with the boys. He took them to the beach, bought them bikes, learned what made them laugh and what made them cry. They didn't care about his wealth or status. They just wanted his time. And for the first time, James realized that all the money in the world meant nothing if he had no one to share it with. One evening, as he tucked them into bed at his house for the first time, Jaden sleepily grabbed his hand. "You're not leaving, right?" he mumbled. James felt his throat tighten. "No, buddy, I'm not going anywhere." And for the first time in a long time, he truly meant it.